So today's commander may infuriate some people, but I think you'll find that she has one of the most fun play patterns that you will ever pick up. Today's commander has been talked about a lot, and you know what? I realize that for the most part, I'm basically just taking my crack at it, and I know that everybody has also played the artifact deck and the control deck at some point in Commander. I mean, after all, control is one of the basic archetypes of card games, and artifact is basically the baby archetype of Wizards of the Coast. But when we combine the two together, we get something that is absolutely magical, at least for the player of the deck. Your mileage will vary for everybody else. Today's commander is Glissa the Traitor. She's got First Strike, Death Touch, and whenever a creature an opponent controls dies, we can return any artifact from our graveyard to our hand. Now, there's a handful of things to note with this card. First of all, she has the very rare combination of First Strike and Death Touch. This means she is the ultimate blocker. It is almost impossible for somebody to find a way to block this thing that does not involve their card also just eating the dust. And that ends up working out really well for us because any card eating the dust will give us access to the cards in our graveyard. So we have to ask ourselves the question, how are we going to get enough cards in our graveyard in order to benefit ourselves? Well, let's go ahead and talk about our cards. Well, it's because of that today we're going to have to do things a little bit differently. Normally, I talk about the core strategy of the deck, and then I go into the different areas of the deck, your meat and potatoes, your draw section, your control section, you know, everything else. But today, things are a little bit different. Today, we have kind of a problem. Our main strategy technically only has 8 cards. We only have 8 cards that do not draw a card, or control a card, or do something similar to that. And the reason for that is those cards are the entire strategy of the deck. So we are going to talk about Ancient Stone Idol and how we're going to try to use this to win the game, Shardless Outlander and how we're going to use this to try to win the game, but we are also going to have to talk about what we are doing to make these cards function. So, real quick, let's go ahead and give a primer. Our main method of drawing is going to be by utilizing these guys. These little 1-mana cards that can simply be put into a graveyard in order to draw a card. They will cantrip us through our deck with very, very little cost to us, and we'll be throwing them in the graveyard by either utilizing their own effects or by using things like Eviscerator's Insight in order to sacrifice those cards. And we plan on making maximum use of cards like Accursed Marauder to make our opponents lose not one, but multiple creatures at once. This will allow us to get a lot of these low mana artifacts out all at once, and basically let us just dig through our deck very, very quickly. With that said, we do need to talk about how to win a game, because these can be very, very depressing and grindy circumstances, so let's talk about Ancient Stone Idol. Our goal is to make sure our opponents don't have anything left on their boards, and this is where cards like the Idol come in. A 12/12 that punches you repeatedly, that makes a 6/12 when it dies, and is able to come back to our hand anytime it dies because of our commander, is a pretty guaranteed win condition. If we're able to make sure we have plenty of these beat down options in our deck, we should be good to go. Shardless Outlander has the benefit of being a 6/5 trampler that also has basic land cycling, so we can use this to repeatedly get the kinds of lands we need into our hand. And then we have Diamond Weapon, a card that does not have any kind of evasion, but we can actually make this card cost a lot less for every permanent in our graveyard. So a repeatable 2-mana 8/8 that just does not die to combat is fantastic. Then we have Metalwork Colossus, a card that I adore in decks like Dr. Eggman, but it's going to be doing a lot of work here too. A 10/10 that can put itself back into our hand even when our commander is not around is just great. But the main reason it's here is because a 10/10 that's able to sacrifice our artifacts, ergo putting those bitches back in the graveyard for us, is exactly what this deck really wants. Then we have the Triplicate Titan, a flying vigilance trample creature that splits into 3 identical pieces of himself whenever he dies. He'll make a 3/3 creature with flying, a 3/3 with vigilance, and then a 3/3 with trample when he dies. Basically, we are always going to have access to the Triplicate Titan, whether it's in triplicate or in singular. As our artifacts die, we can use Vat of Rebirth to put them back onto the battlefield if they cost too much mana, but we're not going to be leaning too terribly hard into these kinds of effects because our commander is doing a lot of this job for us. We also need Mask of Abyssin and Mirror Shield to protect our commander because, well, quite frankly, people are going to be doing everything in their power to kill our board state. And when our board state is mostly made up of, well, did just Glissa, then we're really going to have to lean into protecting Glissa. So it's a good thing both of these protection pieces are artifacts that can be recycled. Now we have to talk about the deck's draw engine, and we've got 16 cards that are going to do the job here. Let's begin with cards like Costly Plunder. These cards, along with Eviscerator's Insight, Fanatical Offering, Reckoner's Bargain, Tarian's Journal, and Deadly Dispute, can all sacrifice our cards in order to draw us cards. This means that we're able to throw away important or non-important artifacts or artifacts that have been used up in order to dig through our deck. And that's not all. We're also going to be running one of my absolute favorites, Trading Post. This allows us to not only discard cards for Glissa to reuse, it allows us to create tokens to block if we need, and it allows us to sacrifice our creatures or artifacts in order to get either artifacts out of our graveyard or to draw cards. It basically does everything you possibly could want in this kind of deck, and it's kind of persona non grata for our opponents. They really should be spending time blowing this up, otherwise what in the hell are they actually doing? But now we got to talk about drawing cards. We've got Wizard's Rockets, Implement of Ferocity, Found Footage, Nutrient, Block. All of these say the same thing. Along with Chromatic Star, they are 1-mana cards that say, when they are put into the graveyard, draw a card. That's it. They just draw us a singular card. So these are here because we don't have to spend a lot of mana on them, and we can throw them away with cards like Deadly Dispute. But we also need to have cards that work on their own, like Conjurer's Bauble. The Bauble allows us to sacrifice itself in order to draw a card. We can also put a card from our graveyard onto the bottom of our deck if we desperately need it. There are some niche scenarios where this can be helpful, but most of the time, we're not going to be needing that so much as just wanting to draw the card. Then we have Ichor Wellspring and Mephitic Drought. Both of these allow us to draw a card when they come into the battlefield, and when we sacrifice them, we can draw yet another card, making them way more powerful versions of cards like Chromatic Star. Then we have the Implement of Malice, which does the same thing, but is probably one of the pseudo-weaker versions of this effect. I say pseudo because there is a niche case we gotta talk about. The Implement can sacrifice itself to make a player discard a card from their hand. So, if we have a way to recycle this, like either Trading Post or our own commander, we can use this to take out pieces from a person's hand if we know they are playing combo. If a player is playing combo into a casual pod, it is your sworn duty to kick their teeth in. And this is going to be how you do that. Take out cards from their hand until they have to get rid of one of their combo pieces they've been holding on to, and they're not going to be happy, but your table will give you a lot more leeway when you do. After all, it's not that combo's bad or overpowered, it's that most players at casual tables do not see combo coming, and because they don't see combo coming, they really get disrupted and just knocked on their asses when a combo happens to them. If you look at the most complained about things in Commander, popping off with a combo is something people almost always struggle with, at least early on. As such, this is one of our tools to deal with that very scenario. If we know somebody's running Simic Good Stuff combo, then just start cycling this card as many times as you can to shred their hand size down. Either you're going to disrupt them, cause some psychic damage, or get rid of the actual combo piece that you need to. All right, it's time to talk about the meat and potatoes here. All of the cards in our deck that allow us to blow up various things. These guys are insanely good, especially in a deck like Glissa. We are running 20 ways to interact with individual cards and 3 board wipes on top of that. So let's go ahead and talk about what we've got. Obviously, we've got the Accursed Marauder, Fleshbag Marauder, Plague Crafter, and Locust Heavy Destroyer. All of these cards do the same thing. Make everybody sack a creature with various clauses so that we can get 3 artifacts back from our graveyard. But we also have the Demonic Junker, a card that allows us to destroy 1 target creature each player controls. This is basically a version of the Plague Crafter effect where we get to pick the targets. Then we have Scrap Compactor, a card that can sacrifice itself to lightning bolt a creature, or sacrifice itself for more mana to destroy any creature or vehicle. It's 1 mana and it's repeatable. It fits well in with what the deck is doing. Then we have the cards that I did not get a chance to test because they were not part of my initial Glissa deck years ago, and these are cards like Survey Mechan, cards that came out in Edge of Eternities, but I have tested out in Eggman, and these have done so much work there, and they're gonna do the same amount of work here. The Mechan costs 10 mana to sacrifice, to lightning bolt a creature, then draw us 3 cards, then gain us 3 life, and this ability costs X less to activate, where X is the number of differently named lands we control. So the better you can build your land base, the better this card is going to be. Then we have the Entropic Battle Cruiser, a card that says when opponents discard cards, they lose 3 life, and whenever we attack, we can make each opponent discard a card. This is another way to control the combo player and get rid of their pieces. Then we have the Executioner's Capsule, a repeatable way to blow up a creature. The way the timings work with this is kind of fascinating. You see, sacrificing is a cost, and we have to do everything that sacrifice entails before we are allowed to proceed through the game's timing restrictions. So, if we sacrifice the capsule, it is in our graveyard, which means when we use it to blow up an opponent's non-black creature, we then have this as a legal target in our grave to put right back into our hand, allowing us to repeatedly use the Executioner's Capsule as often as we want. Yeah, it feels kind of busted, and it kind of is, but that's what I love about it. Then we have the Binding of the Old Gods, a favorite of mine that blows up any non-land permanent, then gets us a land out of our deck. Use this to get Haunted Mire or Vernal Fen once that becomes affordable, so that you can make Survey Mechan a lot more powerful. Then we have Boombox, a card that can blow up to 1 target artifact, 1 target creature, and up to 1 target land, all for the price of a Universal Solvent. This thing is wonderful and blows up a lot of things, and people are going to get really upset that it blows up lands, but I mean, come on, Glacial Chasm exists, and we win with combat. They will be okay. They will manage. Then we have the Dauntless Scrapbot, which gives us a lander token and also gets rid of every opponent's graveyard. Then we have the Lunatic Pandora, a card that can blow up any non-land permanent. It's a better Universal Solvent. Then we have Rise of the Witch King, a card that makes everybody sack a creature. When we sack a creature this way, we get any permanent from our grave back to the battlefield. Then we have Thaumaton Torpedo, another Universal Solvent type of card, a Transmogrifying Wand, a repeatable way to blow up creatures. This can be used up to 3 times before we have to sacrifice it. Then we have Death Sprout to blow up any creature, and then go into our deck and yank out a basic land. After that, we've got Viridian Longbow, which allows us to tap our Glissa to deal 1 damage to any creature or player. That may not seem like a lot, but remember, she has Death Touch. If she taps and deals 1 damage to a creature or a player, that thing will die. And once that thing dies, we get stuff back. This is repeatable, this is free, this is fantastic. Finally, we have a Dalek Drone above our Locust Heavy Destroyer, a 3/3 that burns our opponents and also blows up a creature on the board. After that, we have the deck's Board Wipes, Oblivion Stone because it blows up everything, Plague Boiler because it blows up everything, and then we have an Extinguisher Battleship, which destroys any non-creature permanent and then deals 4 damage to every creature. And it can even close out the game for us because it is a 5 stationing card that allows us to hit somebody for 10 damage. 4 hits with this, and they're out, combined with our other big creatures, and we should be able to do a lot of damage. Finally, we've got the deck's ramp package, 14 cards to dig us through our deck, thin it out, and get us all of the lands that we want. And, well, we're kind of split between the middle. Normally, green decks, I do not use artifact ramp packages, but we have to make some exceptions here because cards like Mindstone double as draw power. Slagstone Refinery gives us ramp specifically for our artifacts whenever our artifacts dies. Kind of important for what we're doing here. Solemn Simulacrum can be sacrificed in order to give us draw power while also ramping our deck. Unstable Obelisk is a universal solvent attached to a mana rock, and then we've got some of the more basic things you would expect in a green ramp deck, like Rampant Growth, Search for Tomorrow, and oh yeah, Heaped Harvest? We can sacrifice this to anything in the deck and get the second land out of it. That's kind of important. Then we also have a Larval Scoutlander, a flyer that is able to basically give us the Harmonize effect, or sorry, not the Harmonize effect, but, you know, the Spring Blue Druid effect. The one that says, oh, we get to sacrifice a land and get 2 basics from the deck? Yeah, absolutely, sign me up, that's wonderful. Command Sphere is a Mind Stone that costs more mana up front, but can be sacrificed for free. All Fate Scroll gives us the mana of any color, but if we sacrifice it, we can draw X cards, where X is the number of differently named lands we control. This can be used to refresh our hand when things go bad, or if we get Bajuka Bog. Then we have Mycosynth Wellspring, which is not a ramp piece, but does let us get basic lands out of our deck at a good rate. And then we have Stone Speaker Crystal, a card that ramps for 2, and then allows us to get rid of all players' graveyards and draw a card if we ever see the need to sacrifice it. After that, for the lands, we are running 11 forests and 11 swamps, with our dual lands being a Command Tower, an Exotic Orchard, a Tainted Wood, a Twilight Mire, a Viridian Bog, a Temple of Malady, Necroblossom Snarl, and a Festering Thicket. And then, of course, we have a Golgari Rot Farm for resetting utility lands, and a Haunted Mire so that we can go and yank this out of the deck with things like Binding the Old Gods. Then we've got the fetching lands of Evolving Wilds, Terramorphic Expanse, and Escape Tunnel, with a Myriad Landscape in here in order to let us ramp. Then for our utility lands, we have a Phyrexia's Core to sack artifacts, a Pit of Offerings to get rid of problematic cards in the graveyard, and a Mosswort Bridge because some of our cards cost a ludicrous amount of mana, and hopefully we're going to be able to gamble and hit those cards. After that, all that's left is to talk about how to actually play the deck, and let's get into that. All right, let's look at our opening hand, and it looks like we've got a Swamp and a Tainted Wood, already a very good combination of cards, because it gives us maximum land selection. We need 2 green to summon our commander, and we don't have that, so I am a little worried, but we have this Conjurer's Bauble. We may be able to lean into that in order to give us what we need. So let's draw a card. Let's go ahead and play down every guy's worst nightmare, that Tainted Wood, tap it for that Conjurer's Bauble, and then pass to our opponents. Then we're going to crack the Conjurer's Bauble because it will draw us a card and go to our turn. We end up drawing a Festering Thicket. This means that we actually will be set up for a subsequent turn. So we're going to go ahead and play that Festering Thicket down like so, and then pass to our opponents. Moving into the next turn, we have the Thicket, we have the Wood. Now we just need to play the Swamp and tap 3, and we can get Glissa out on the board. Nice and easy. Moving into turn 4, we have the Terramorphic Expanse, but we don't need to play it right now. So let's go ahead and play this here Swamp. And I think what we need to do now, actually no, not the Swamp. Let's play the Phyrexian Core. That's the move, because then we can pay 2 and play the Ichor Wellspring to try to draw a card. And if that card does not help us, then we'll get rid of the Ichor Wellspring, which we will end up having to do with the Phyrexian Core to draw another card. And then when our turn comes up, we get to draw Found Footage. Now, once again, we do not need to go too terribly hard into anything, but I think what I want to do here, man, I want the Slagstone Refinery. That's what I want. I want Found Footage, and I want the Refinery out for a subsequent turn before we start just lambasting our opponents with effects. The Found Footage can be sacrificed to Surveil 2 and draw us a card, so we will use that here in just a second. Let's go ahead and go to the next turn, and let's play ourselves a Forest. Tap 2, sacrifice the Found Footage, which of course will ramp us by creating a Power Stone token. Now that that's out, the Found Footage is going to allow us to Surveil 2. And I actually, man, I don't want either of these. So we're going to throw these to the graveyard. And then we're going to pay 1, 2, 3 and play Plague Crafter after we draw our card. The Plague Crafter is going to make everybody lose a creature, which means we get access to our Mycosynth Wellspring, our Found Footage, and our Ichor Wellspring all over again. But I think we're not going to get the Found Footage. I think we're just going to get the Conjurer's Bauble. I think that's the move. And then we have 2 mana available to us, so let's go ahead and play that Ichor Wellspring to draw an extra card. And it's a Chromatic Sphere, so we can go ahead and discard down for turn. It's going to be the it's going to be the Terramorphic Expanse and the Myriad Landscape, as we don't need those right now. Moving into the next turn, we can go ahead and play Viridescent Bog as our land for turn. The Stone Idol will cost less as we do things, but I don't think that it's going to be super necessary to worry about that, because the Slagstone Refinery is going to give us everything that we need. Let me show you. Let's go ahead and play the Conjurer's Bauble, crack the Conjurer's Bauble, and then that will immediately create a Power Stone token for us. Then we can pay 1 for the Chromatic Star, 1, 2, 3 for the Mycosynth Wellspring and the Scrap Compactor. And then we'll pay 1, 2, 3, 4, and let's go ahead and get the Entropic Battlecruiser out and station it by 1. So anytime opponents discard a card, they will lose 3 life. Now I'm setting us up to use the Phyrexian Core and the Reckoner's Bargain a lot on our next turn. So let's move these things where they need to be. And when our turn comes up, we're going to go ahead and play our land, and we're going to look at our opponents and see what we need to do. If there's a small creature who's a threat, we're going to blow that up with the Scrap Compactor. If there's a large creature, we're also going to blow that up with the Scrap Compactor. So paying 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, blows up that creature with the Compactor, and then puts the Compactor immediately back into our hand while spawning a Power Stone token. We can then use that Power Stone token to replay the Compactor, and with 1, 2, 3, 4, with enough mana left, we can pay 1, 2, and we can use this Reckoner's Bargain and sacrifice this Ichor Wellspring. When we get rid of the Wellspring, we are allowed to draw a card, and then we get to draw 2 cards from the Reckoner's Bargain, and then, of course, we will spawn a new Power Stone token. With that new Power Stone token, let's see, 1, 2, we have 2 mana available to us and a Power Stone token here. Let's go ahead and pay 3. Let's sack the Scrap Compactor to Lightning Bolt a small creature, giving us back the Scrap Compactor, getting another Power Stone token. Let's use the Power Stone token to replay the Scrap Compactor. And then let's get the Entropic Battlecruiser up to 6 counters. Now that we're at 6 counters, we're almost ready to start shredding our opponent's hands away. So let's move on to the next turn. Let's go ahead and play our Forest, and we're at a stage where we can basically do what we want. We've ramped a lot. Like hell, we're just going to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Man, I can't tap these things. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And that's going to get Ancient Stone Idol out. We can do that at flash speed, but we can just put it right here as it is and start hitting people with it. And if people have blockers, we can just start knocking those blockers out with our Scrap Compactor, because we can just keep on using the Scrap Compactor. Also, fun fact, Power Stone tokens can only spend their mana on cannot spend their mana on non-artifact spells, but there is nothing saying that we cannot use this Power Stone token that we create to fuel the Phyrexian Core's activated ability to sacrifice the Mycosynth Wellspring or the Chromatic Star to draw an extra card. There's nothing saying we are not allowed to do that. Power Stone tokens are way more powerful than I think people give them credit for. And then if we swing in and people have to block, that will kill a creature, that will give us that Chromatic Star back, but that's on a subsequent turn. For now, we are just going to swing with the Battlecruiser and make everybody discard a card. At this point, we are able to basically over and over again blow up problematic cards on the board. Check this out. I want our commander to come out here in a minute. And in order to do that, in order to facilitate that happening, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pay 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And I'm going to play this Extinguisher Battleship. It's going to destroy a non-creature permanent. Then it's going to blow up all creatures on the board, which is going to give us, well, it's going to blow up everything that's small. And that's usually going to give us all of our artifacts from our graveyard all to our hand, just because people have lots of creatures on the board. It will, of course, kill our Glissa, but we can pay 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and just resummon that Glissa, and then pay 1, and let's go ahead and just get that Conjurer's Bauble out on the board again. Why not? Then we have a Crude Battlecruiser, a Ancient Stone Idol that can swing for 12, and we can start stationing up this Extinguisher Battleship, because we just have to crew it twice with Glissa to make it a 10-10. Now players are on a clock. We are dealing 20 damage to a player every turn, and we are able to repeatedly wipe out the problematic cards on their boards. If too many things go on the board, we'll hit them with the Oblivion Stone. If not, we'll keep recycling the Scrap Compactor, because every time we do it, we are going to get a bunch of things out all at once. And remember, every time we crack this Conjurer's Bauble, we get a new Power Stone token, which can then pay for another Conjurer's Bauble if we keep on putting the pressure on our opponents. It's not an infinite mana engine, but it is enough mana to do dumb, silly things. For upgrades, let's start with something that I actually forgot about entirely. Haywire Might is incredibly mana efficient and can also blow up any non-creature artifact or non-creature enchantment. I did not put it in the deck because I forgot, and I'm willing to admit that. I'm that big of a person. Then we add Scrap Trawler as another upgrade you could add in. Anytime we do our artifact throwing away shenanigans, there is a chance that Scrap Trawler is going to be able to just do its job really well. Then we have Braid's Arisen Nightmare, a repeatable way to sacrifice our artifacts, which is incredibly important. Then, obviously, as you're upgrading your deck, you can add in MDFCs. I will always suggest adding in MDFCs, as these give you access to more uniquely named lands, and our deck has a few effects that care about that, while also being spells when you need them to be. And we have even more ways to sacrifice artifacts besides Braids that you can add into your upgrade package. If you've got the $20 to spend, a Karclan Ironworks gives you 2 mana whenever you sack an artifact, and there are some fun ways to abuse and loop this. Then we have another way to close out games, the Wormcoil Engine. This, alongside the Triplicate Titan, gives you some very powerful cards with lots of staying power, because when they die, they will make extra pieces of themselves to hit your opponents with. Then we have Imitek the Stormlord, another way to close out games, because every time we cycle things out of our graveyard, we will be able to get a bunch of Necron warriors out when we do. And then, of course, we have Necron Deathmark, a card that allows us to blow up a target creature and then mill 3 cards whenever it comes out. It's got flash, so it's really easy to use this as an instant speed way to remove a threat from the board. And with that said, that's basically everything in the deck, how to play it, upgrades, everything you possibly could want. If you want to pick up this deck, the best way to do so would be to grab it over on Mana Pool. Just click the link in the description to grab the deck and put it in your cart, and then use the link in the description in order to change your buying options to buy through my link. If you've not used Mana Pool before, then you'll get $5 off of your first purchase, and if you have used it before, then it still supports the channel, so thank you very much, and I appreciate you being here. If there's any commanders that you would like me to do a video on, let me know in the comment section below. I would love to see what I should tackle next. That said, thank you all for watching. I appreciate each and every one of you. Thank you for being here, and I hope to see you in the next one.